All right. Welcome. We are live with the 49ers Rush podcast for the first time. So if you guys are joining me on YouTube right now, I just want to say thank you. You get to see my ugly mug, but that's what it is. So let's jump in right away. And if you are not with this live, that's okay. I'm still going to put this up wherever the podcast goes out. But I wanted to do this because I thought it would be an awesome way for you guys to kind of interact and we can kind of do a little bit more back and forth. So, a couple things that I do want to get into. One, just some general kind of takeaways from the game. Obviously, first off, let me start off. 49ers win. Holy cow, this is great. They come out, they win 31-17. And man, it was a sloppy win, but these are the same type of sloppy games that we've lost. And so the fact that we have been able to come out and just, be able to win a game that we throw a pick six in, that we have a ridiculous amount of penalties in, that, all these different things that go wrong for us throughout this game, that's okay. We are able to pull out the win. And the main reason why had to do with defense. The fact that we kept the Bucs to only 17 points is just gigantic. This is one of the most potent, powerful offenses in the NFL. If you listen to the previous game breakdown, they were top 5 in offense last year. The problem is turnovers, and because of Jameis Winston, that's not going to be fixed. I don't think that he is really a capable quarterback whenever it comes to, I don't know, protecting the ball or making good choices. If you went back and watched the Hard Knocks, then you basically could have saw how terrible decision making this guy is. The most problematic thing I could say of Jameis Winston, and he's having a meeting with his head coach, Dirk Cutter, at the time, and he tells him, yeah, sometimes I just don't know what down and distance it is. And so anyway, that's what it is. But again, thank you guys all for coming out. Man, it's awesome seeing a lot of people show up in here, which is wonderful. Now, here's the deal. If you do have a question, I have the chat open over here. So go ahead and just put that in there and we'll jump in there and talk about that. But man, here's the deal. That pass rush, holy freaking cow. And probably more importantly than just the pass rush by itself, Nick Bosa, best case scenario after his ankle injury was maybe he'd come back in spot duty, but good Lord, 3 quarterback hits. Nobody else on the team got more than 1 quarterback hit. He had a sack and a half. It looked unbelievable. And at big times, even on that very last play, which I am curious when the injury report and details come out, because he kind of hobbled off the last play of the game. I mean, he looked all right, but he did not look, I don't know if, anyway, we'll just have to wait and see. It's all speculation at this point. Now, a couple other injuries that did happen. Matt Breida went down early, which was kind of scary. But he came back in, finished strong. No big deal there. Tevin Coleman's ankle injury does seem like it might be a big deal. Kyle Shanahan in his press conference just now, if you watch this, they said, they're not quite sure what the diagnosis is or how long that's out. Kwan Williams was out with cramps for a while, and Robbie Gould, probably the biggest injury of all, limped off in the fourth quarter after he made his field goal. And they ended up going for 2 the next play out there because he wasn't able to kick. So this is something to monitor. He is much older. That kind of takes us through the injury thing. Now, a couple things. Question from that Niners fan. Do you agree with the decision that Debo plays more and kind of over Pettis? Debo didn't have a great game. I'm going to be very, very honest. He missed several different assignments, and a lot of that just kind of had to do with inexperience, I guess you could say. The fumble, obviously, yeah, that's going to stick out. The offsides on a crucial drive at the end of the game, that was huge. He missed a couple blocks, but he did catch all 3 of his targets. And I love Deebo Samuel, and I think that he will be the star. He's the starter in his very first NFL game. I don't think that's going to change, but I would prefer to see Pettis out there more than he was. Kyle Shanahan was just asked about this just now and said, man, what's up with Pettis? And immediately you could tell Kyle Shanahan knew this question was coming, and he said, well, he didn't practice all week because of the groin, so that was part of it. Whenever he was out there, he looked good. He did a lot of good things. He didn't get a lot of snaps. I'd be surprised if he maybe got 8 snaps in the game. He did catch his lone target for 7 yards, but they panned over on the sidelines a couple times, and one thing that I did like, he was high energy like Dante Pettis always is with his teammates and whatever else. But I think he's going to get some more snaps next week. I really do. At least I hope so. We got to get that guy out there. You can't give up on him just yet. So couple things out here just real quick. Sloppy victory. Luke Walsh says sloppy victory. Eastern time zone victories aren't easy. The stat came up in the game. The 49ers won. This is our first road victory in over a year. We didn't win one road game last year, so that's huge. Every team in the NFL is huge. So it doesn't matter if it's the Tampa Bay Bucs. Doesn't matter. Road wins are key. Also, we were 0-12, the 49ers, on their last 12 games in the Eastern time zone. So, again, another huge thing. Jose Torres is showing up saying Robbie Gould just had a cramp. I am hoping that is the case. If that is the case, that is huge and probably best case scenario. Now, a lot of people online were coming in hot with their Jimmy Garoppolo takes and just how bad of a player he is and he's terrible and all that stuff. I don't think that he really had an awful game. The pick six was just atrocious. And there's lots of things about the pick six that shouldn't happen. One, you send your running back all the way out wide, which we do all the time. That's fine. And we were on the right hash. He was lined up. Tevin Coleman, I believe, was the wide receiver. It might have been Mostert, but all the way out, like up against the sideline. So it's already a very, very far throw. Two, a lot of times during the game they did this where they would put a safety or a linebacker out there in our empty 5-wide set. They didn't do that. They sat their number one corner, Vernon Hargreaves, on them and with no cushion. So I feel like this is one of those things that, goodness, he wasn't backpedaling. He was a flat foot. Kyle Shanahan even said, you got a flat-footed corner out there. You got to be careful because he's going to be pouncing. If he's rocking a little bit, that's going to tell you he's going to bail and you can make that throw. But it was a 100% bad choice. A lot of the best throws that Jimmy Garoppolo made were drops. And so that's kind of the thing, or taken back on penalties. And you saw it, the one play that Jimmy Garoppolo rushed for a first down, and it was absolutely amazing. It was like 3rd and 7. He gets like 10 yards and another penalty. So if you just made a highlight, we had 3 touchdowns called back on penalties. So if you just made a highlight reel of all the plays that didn't count, I think you would be very, very pleased. So take that for what you want. Now, I do want to say, man, I'm seeing a lot of Akilo stuff. I have Witherspoon as my player of the game. That is the best game that kid has ever played in his life. Obviously, the pick six was gigantic. Definitely don't want to discount that. But even bigger than that, he was like glue the whole game. And a big reason why Sherman was being targeted so much was because the other wide receiver on the other field was completely locked down. And so just absolute great play. If we can get that type of corner play from both Sherman and Witherspoon, then holy freaking cow. Now, so I absolutely got to tip my hat to Witherspoon. He's my defensive MVP. And Mark Nzocha, definitely runner up. Anytime you get a blocked punt and an interception for a team that just can't intercept the ball, that's huge. But we almost had 5 picks in this game. Which is absolutely astonishing, especially with where we were last year. They talked about it a lot on the broadcast, depending on which I had the Sunday ticket one, which had Rondé Barber on there as a little bit of a Bucs homer, but that's okay. But the idea is this, they kept talking about, we only had 2 interceptions last year. Well, we passed that today. We had 3 picks, more interceptions in one game than we had all of last year, which is just absolutely amazing. And a lot of it has to do with the pressure up front. We had a lot of pressure, and last year we were stuck to whatever DeForest Buckner could create. Well, I'm going to tell you guys this: DeForest Buckner had a bad game. He got better as the game went on, but in the first and second quarter, he was definitely not doing very well. A lot of those big runs late were right up the middle, which was rough. But if we can get that kind of pressure with our best defensive player having a down game, that's great news. And that's kind of what we want. So the entire defense did absolutely great. Mike Evans was super sick. They showed him up on the sidelines, looking like he was going to throw up. Just looked really just sick. Anyway, also got to give it up to D Ford. He had another sack fumble. This is what he does. He led the NFL in it last year. He runs by and just swipes the ball out of the quarterback's hands. And unfortunately, we didn't recover it. But man, so many fumbles. Fred Warner forced 3 fumbles during the game, 2 of which were recovered by the Bucs. But still, the fact that he is punching the ball out so consistently is wonderful. So excited about that. And even though we gave up 17 points, I agree with you here, Soko. 10 points were on the defense. Jimmy Garoppolo gave up 7 by himself. So the fact that you held this offense to only 10 points is absolutely incredible. And you got to give a shout out to Tarvarius Moore. He goes out there and it's 4th down. Holy freaking cow. Absolutely incredible play. Just what a weird drive. Super long drive, penalties back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They go to kick a field goal on the 5-yard line. And DeForest Buckner, also the nose tackle, I think it was Sheldon Day, but I'm not positive on that. So if I'm attributing him anything negative, I apologize. They both jump off sides on the field goal. Now, it was a 4th and goal, so they just got closer. So they moved from the 4 to the 2. Bruce Arians, I love that guy. I really, really do. He decides to go for it. Touchdown. They were down 6 at the time. And so they go for it. 4th and 2. And sure enough, Tarvarius Moore covers some ground. Man, we got a safety, guys. He was so active in this game. And, several tackles. I think he had 8 tackles on the game. And he didn't blow any coverages. He did have a couple missed tackles, which, is going to happen. It's his first game ever, really, at the safety position in the NFL. But he had 8 tackles, 5 solo tackles, and that huge pass deflection, which was huge, which stopped the entire swing of the game. That was gigantic. Coleman is in a walking boot, is what I'm hearing people say. I don't have Twitter or anything up, so I'm relying on you guys. But what an awesome game. The middle run D was exceptional early and then just got gassed late. And man, we were up 6 points. They back us up. We punt the ball. They get the ball around their 40. We send in our 3rd defensive line on the most important drive of the game, and I am losing my mind. And I wanted to see how far I could go without talking about Solomon Thomas. He maybe played 12 snaps, almost all of them in the last 2 drives. He took way more snaps at defensive end than he did defensive tackle or inside. And he didn't drop into coverage, so I guess that's a huge plus. Take that for what you want. But yeah, with Tevin Coleman in a walking boot, I do agree with you. Mr. Sticky. I love these names, by the way. Jeff Wilson on the practice squad will be moved up. They asked Kyle Shanahan about it, and he said, we do like to have 3 halfbacks ready on game day. But we also have to look at who else is out there. So I do think Kyle Shanahan will stay with people that he knows. I just hope he doesn't go and sound Alfred Morris, who just got released by the Cowboys. That would be worst case situation. But Jeff Wilson should be called up. And I think, it's going to be Breida and Mostert, who I absolutely love. Somebody asked me on Twitter last week how I would rank our running back depth chart, and I put Mostert ahead of Coleman. I said Breida, then Mostert, then Tevin Coleman, and then Jeff Wilson. So I love Mostert. That play that he made where he stiff-armed Devin White, the number 5 overall pick, one of the best tackling linebackers to come out of college football in a long time, and he just embarrassed him. So that was awesome. Question. Jimmy Garoppolo's QBR and stats from Gibster. He finished the day 18 for 27, 166 yards, 6.1 yards per pass attempt, which is super low. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was only sacked once, and it finished with a rating of 80.2, which is good enough to win a game if you play well. It's not good enough to win a game, if your defense is playing bad or whatever. So 100% average. That is an average quarterback rating, and that's okay. As long as he's not costing us the game, I'm cool with that. And the problem was this. The play calling seemed very timid to me. One, we only threw the ball to Kittle. We didn't throw the ball to anybody else. Kittle had 10 targets out of 27 passes. Nobody else had more than 3 targets. And if you take the tight end and the running backs out of it, Richie James had 2. He had that 1 catch for a touchdown pass, which was awesome. And then Debo Samuel had 3. He caught all 3, but he fumbled on 1. Kendrick Bourne had 3. He only caught 1. Both of them went off of his hands. They were both bad passes, but still. Marquise Goodwin, 3 targets. He only caught 1. He had that one big drop, probably Jimmy's best pass. It was on a play action rollout to the offense's right, and he threw a dart 15 yards down to Marquise Goodwin. It was a little bit behind him, but it definitely should have been caught right into his hands. So again, time of possession was interesting because, man, we controlled the ball early for a very, very long time. And yeah, Kittle should have had 2 touchdowns. Kittle should have had more than that. That guy is absolutely unbelievable. A couple things about offensive line play on here from George. I'll say this. When we can win games when our best players are having bad games, that's a good thing. Mike McGlinchey and Laken Tomlinson did not have good games. The one sack that I talked about, it was kind of a fluke play. It was a timed blitz, just an inside gap blitz through the B gap. So it was right in between Mike Person and McGlinchey just whiffed. He didn't even touch him. And so that was huge. Had a huge holding call later on, which was a holding call. And Laken Tomlinson got blown up a lot of times by Sue early. So the running game definitely started to gain as time went on, but it was so bad to start. We didn't have a play action pass like for the first quarter and a half. We just didn't do it because the run wasn't working. And Warren Sharp, I'll give him a shout out. Like, play action pass still works even if your running game doesn't. People still bite on the fake, but we didn't do that very, very much at all, which is quite interesting. I really do wish we would have attempted more down the field passes. Jimmy G is not the best deep ball thrower, but man, he put a couple dimes out there today. And I think we've got to test the deep kind of third of the field much more, because we were facing 7-8 men in the box consistently. Now, a lot of that had to do with, we had 2 tight ends out there for probably 90% of the game. We were either in 22 personnel or we were in empty backfield. So what you can do from 22 personnel, and we did, but like, we're either in a huge set, we got our fullback and halfback with 2 tight ends, or all those same guys are split out, which Kyle Shanahan likes to do one or the other, but didn't do a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, which was really, really interesting. Definitely no 4 wide receiver sets. We're among the league low in 4 wide receiver sets because he likes to use the passing backs out there so much more. Now, just a couple other things. If you guys, again, if you do have questions, please throw that up here. But man, there's a lot of stuff going on. And, I do have to give a shout out to mybookie.com. I told you guys to put money down on this game, and sacks as well. I told you one of the dark horse bets on my bookie was the 49ers to lead the NFL in sacks, and they're off to a pretty damn good start. They didn't get it. They're not near the league lead, but they're definitely going to be above the vast majority of the NFL. So if you haven't already, head over to mybookie.ag, use the promo code 49ers, 49ERS. They're going to match your initial deposit. I love betting 49ers games. I really, really do, with the spread and straight up. It just makes it more interesting. I don't throw a lot of money down on there, but head over there to MyBookie. The best thing about them, you play, you win, you get paid. So easy to get your money in and out. Head over there, mybookie.ag, and use the promo code 49ers. Now, let's jump over real quick. I do want to talk about the drive summary, okay? This is one of my favorite things because it tells the story of how things went on offense and defense. So, right off the bat, okay, we come out the very first drive. We get a field goal, good 6 plays. And it started off because of the block punt. This is how defense and offense should work together. We had a bad drive. We didn't really do much with it. We should have scored a touchdown, but that's okay. That's when Kittle scored the touchdown, but it got called back on the offensive pass interference. And again, it was a good call. Lots of questions on here just about penalties. The penalties were bad, but the penalties were bad for both teams. That was just, the refs decided early on, we're going to call a tight game, and they were at least consistent. Were they all penalties? Hell no, they were not. So, like, if you want to talk about the ejection, Soko, I think they have to do that. I really do. If that wasn't a quarterback, let's say that was a running back and that exact same play happened, I don't think that Quan gets ejected. I really, really don't. But this is the new NFL, and they've got to do it because, there was a play later on when MJ Stewart, the corner for Tampa Bay, did the exact same hit to Raheem Mostert. And they even talked about it. Rondé Barber mentioned it. But here's the deal. What happened was MJ Stewart went out of the game with a concussion because he hit the other guy. So this is part of the NFL trying to keep everybody kind of to themselves. Hold on, let me block this guy real quick. I apologize. Boom. Yep. All right. He's in timeout. Sorry about that. But that's the thing. You've got to protect these players from themselves because that's the only thing that's going to bring the downfall of the NFL is all this brain issues. So as a former coach, player, my kids play, all those things, man, I hate it. That was a hell of a hit, and that quarterback needs to go down earlier if he doesn't want to take that hit. I believe he waited so long to slide. So Jameis Winston is fighting for extra yards, but then he slides. You got to slide earlier. You got to protect yourself. That's kind of part of it. So take it for what you will. So the penalties were bad, but they were bad for both sides. So as long as the game is going back and forth, I'm cool with that. It's the one-sided games that are really, really upset me or piss me off. So anyway, first drive, we get a field goal. Second one, we punt after 4 plays. And again, we didn't see a lot. Laken Tomlinson gets just run over by Ndamukong Suh. It happened probably 3 times during the game. And Coleman gets stuffed on 3rd and 1. Coleman cannot break a tackle. That guy is a flag football specialist. He drives me insane. When you have a running back and it's 3rd and 1, he's one-on-one with a secondary player, and he goes down on first contact. I can't stand that. It just drives me absolutely insane. Next drive, pick 6. So it's looking bad. We get a field goal, then we punt on basically a 3 and out. Then we get a pick 6, and it's just like, uh-oh, things are looking bad. Then we go back and we respond. We put together an 11-play drive. We kick a 36-yard field goal, and things are looking good. And I got to mention Tevin Coleman, probably his best play was just a crossing route out of an empty set for 41 yards, and that's my case in point. If you get him the ball in space and he's already moving, he's a huge, big play. But everything else that Tevin Coleman does, 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 41 yards. So he's not a long play establisher. He's a home run guy. So anyway, take for that what you will. Now we come back, we fumble. That's the Debo. Man, that was rough because that was a free field goal. We were already in field goal range. This is the 5th drive of the game going into halftime. There's 10 seconds left in the half. And all he does, he gets a fumble. Mike McGlinchey caused the fumble, actually. I don't think you put that on McGlinchey. He was out there pulling, but it's what it is. Yeah, somebody put on here, more needs to work on tackling. Yes, the entire team needs to work on tackling. The 2 biggest negative takeaways were missed tackles. Holy cow. In one drive, we had 4 missed tackles, and I was losing my damn mind. This was a problem last year, and we haven't corrected it at all. A lot of it has to do with personnel. We go after height, weight, speed guys that fit the position, the prototypes that we want for these position guys like Akello. And we don't care about their physicality because we just don't prioritize that in the back end. And so the mentality for our coaching staff is, man, we'll coach them up, but we haven't coached them up. I don't know. Take that what you will. All right, so we fumble it away. We give away a free field goal. No big deal. They just nail the ball. It's halftime. And man, in the second half, we only had 4 offensive drives. We come out, answer solidly. Touchdown pass to Richie James for 49 yards, 7 plays, 75 yards. Just absolutely great drive. Next drive, field goal, 57-yarder, no good. That's the one that bounced off the up route. I love the comment here. In Florida, why would you attempt that? Well, he almost made it. He got really, really close. It was funny whenever he kicked it from 57 yards out and it hit the crossbar. I held my breath because it was like it can hit the crossbar and bounce in, but it didn't. It bounced out, which was rough. And then we end on 2 different drives. We punt after, we're backed up the 8th drive. We're backed up against our end zone. This is after we held them on 4th down, the Tarvarius Moore pass deflection. And man, it wasn't a great punt. The first punt from Wisnowski, absolutely amazing. Great hit down there. I forget who made the hit. I had it in here, dang it. It was absolutely, it's Mosley, one of my favorites. Mosley makes an amazing hit on the punt. And then we come back, the last drive of the game, 47-yard field goal. Amazing run by Mostert to stiff arm Devin White to kind of ice the game. And it seemed like we were going to be good from that point. We're up 6, and then we got the pick 6 after that. So only 9 total drives for our offense. Now, if we jump over to kind of the team stats and what that looked like, everything was almost completely even between both the offense and the defense. It really kind of mirrored stats all over the place. Third down efficiency, both teams sucked. We went 5 for 13. They went 5 for 11. They were 0 for 2 on fourth down, which you got to be happy about that. But total yards, we had 256. They had 295. All those things are basically the same, 5.6 yards per pass to 4.5, but the interceptions and the turnovers were huge. We did get 3 sacks on them for 20 yards, which obviously is great. And you got to say this too. The way that the NFL works is you win road games, you protect home, and at least go 500 in your division, you make the playoffs. This is a huge step forward for the 49ers. And I am super excited that we can have an 11 penalty game and throw a pick 6 and lose a fumble and still win by 14 points. So, really excited about that and just kind of everything that they're putting together. No doubt the roster is way more talented than it has been. And so as long as we can stay healthy relatively. And if you look out there, Nick Foles, broke his clavicle today. Joe Mixon, who we're playing next week, he left the game early. I don't want to jump too far ahead of next week, but we got Cincinnati Bengals next week. They've lost. AJ Green's not going to play. Joe Mixon isn't going to play. They drafted 2 running backs that are already on IR. Like, goodness, we are definitely not the so far, knock on wood, we are not the injury-riddled team that we used to be. Are we going to have injuries? 100%. And the offensive MVP, as everybody keeps putting on there, it's George Kittle. Not even close. That guy is the best player on this team. And again, not close. The first 4 passes that Jimmy Garoppolo threw were all to George Kittle, and he catches almost everything. 8 receptions on 10 targets for 54 yards. And if you look at the plays that were called back, holy freaking cow, very easily could have had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he creates it on his own. That's the thing. Like, you can scheme. Kyle Shanahan's a schemer. That's what he does. He gets people out in space. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do it with Kittle. He creates on his own. You just get that guy the ball. He goes 100 miles an hour, all gas, no brakes. And, it's awesome. And you got to say this too. Kyle Shanahan was asked about it. How does it feel to be 1-0? He has never been above 500 in his 3 years with the 49ers. So this is the first time he is in the win column over everybody else. So, you take that, the small things, and you just say, hey, man, let's keep building as best we can to get this team where we can be. And I really do think that it can be great. So absolutely love this. Love the interaction on here. I'm going to keep doing this all year. So immediately after the Kyle Shanahan press conference on any game day, come back to my channel. If you haven't hit subscribe to my channel yet, please do. I know the people listening live all have. But all you got to do is just Google or go to YouTube, type in John Chapman, and click on the channel search thing, and you'll see my ugly mug right there. Hit subscribe because I do a lot of video work here. I need to get some more stuff up. I'm going to be doing a lot of film work once they release the End Zone and All 22, which they didn't do over the preseason, which broke my heart, but that's okay. I'm going to have 2 more podcasts breaking down this game in detail with snap counts, going over all the Pro Football Focus grades, film study, and all that. So I'll do an all-out offensive breakdown, and then I'll do an all-out defensive breakdown as well. And then it'll be getting ready for Cincy. So again, subscribe wherever you have. Really appreciate you guys coming out. Man, we got over 70 people in here, which is great. Really, really appreciate it. And I will be back with you guys soon. Stay strong, faithful.